What's going on, everybody? It's Arma from Houston Ensemble. And we're going to get right into this video because we have a lot to cover. 5 times the media went too far. 5 times the media lied on behalf of the government and on behalf of corporations to, frankly, send a lot of people to their death, if not completely ridicule and ruin their lives. So, first on the list is the Gulf of Tonkin incident. And I highly suggest you guys stick around for number 5 because it's going to get really hot really fast. But before we begin, subscribe, like, and comment, guys. It'll only take you a second, but it means so much to us and we really appreciate it. So, the Gulf of Tonkin incident is something that the US government pushed into every aspect of the mainstream. And they had recruitment campaigns and they had media coverage of the incident, and the whole premise was there was an attack that later turned out was completely miscalculated, misrepresented, and not even remotely in line with the official reports. The first footage we have here is directly from the former Secretary of Defense announcing the Gulf of Tonkin incident,
which have directly supported the operation of the PT boats. Furthermore, in view of the unprovoked attacks, the deliberate attacks in international waters on U.S. naval forces, the United States has taken the precaution of moving substantial military reinforcements to Southeast Asia from our Pacific bases. In addition, we are also sending reinforcements to the Western Pacific from bases in the United States. I think you can understand it's not wise at the present time for me to identify these forces or to list the detailed strength of these movements. But I can assure you that the movements are appropriate to the provocation.
See, that's right off the bat, and there's a lot to this footage, but right off the bat, I'm not going to tell you the details, but I assure you, it's really warranted, the decisions we're making here, so don't worry about it. It's not a good start for the Secretary of Defense here. What does Wikipedia have to say? Just to give you a brief synopsis, a little more clarity. What happened was the National Security Agency originally claimed that another sea battle, the Gulf of Tonkin incident, occurred on August 4, 1964, but instead evidence was found of Tonkin ghosts, false radar images, and not actual North Vietnamese torpedo boats. In the 2003 documentary The Fog of War, the former United States Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara admitted that an attack on the USS Maddox happened on August 2nd, but the August 4 Gulf of Tonkin attack, for which Washington authorized retaliation, never happened. So that's pretty damning of the Secretary of Defense. And I pulled up a transcript of that very 2003 documentary in which McNamara says, "It was just confusion. And events afterwards show that our judgment that we'd been attacked that day was wrong. It didn't happen. And the judgment that we'd been attacked on August 2nd was right. We had been, although that was disputed at the time. So we were right once and wrong once." I mean, the way he's talking there, it's as if the August 2nd incident might have been also a lie. But he says this in 2003. Who knows what other admissions we might see in the future, but what is the significance of this? Let's go ahead and watch this video for a little more clarity.
On the morning of August 4th, 1964, I began my first full-time employment in the Pentagon, working under Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara. My very first day on the job, all hell broke loose. A courier came running in with a flash cable saying that American warships were under attack in the Tonkin Gulf off the coast of North Vietnam. And I was getting these because my boss was already down the hall with McNamara picking targets to retaliate against North Vietnam. Minute after minute, more cables came in. 3 torpedoes have been fired. 7, we are taking evasive action. At about 1:30 our time, comes a new cable from the commodore of the 2 ships. Hold everything, in effect. All previous reports of torpedoes are in question.
Renewed hostile actions against United States ships on the high seas in the Gulf of Tonkin have today required me to order the military forces of the United States to take action in reply.
Within days, it was clearer and clearer that there had been no attack.
I shall immediately request the Congress to pass a resolution.
President Johnson was determined to prevent a communist victory in South Vietnam. He twisted the facts of the Tonkin Gulf incident to persuade Congress to give him unlimited authority to use military force. He then launched a war that would last another 11 years.
11 years of death, 11 years of a conflict making billionaires richer and making the poor American lives poorer and sacrificing them for pockets, sacrificing them for geopolitical control. And that's what we do. So what do we get out of it? We got Vietnamese civilian deaths estimated between 627,000 and 2 million. Vietnamese total dead 966,000 to 3 million. Cambodian Civil War dead 275 to 310,000. Laotian 20,000, 62,000, and total dead between 1.3 million and 3.4 million. We had 58,000 US, 47,000 from combatants, 303,000 wounded, 150,000 not requiring hospital care. But overall, what do we get? A bunch of carnage over a giant lie. So that leads us to number 2, the WMD debacle. Let's get into this first archive clip, thanks to our buddies at the AP.
I take the threat very seriously. I take the fact that he develops weapons of mass destruction very seriously. I remember the fact that he has invaded 2 countries before. I know for a fact that he's poisoned his own people. He doesn't believe in the worth of each individual. He doesn't believe in public dissent. I look forward to a dialogue.
Looking at him now, it's like a bad actor auditioning for a role. And we now know that these were all lies, but let's keep going with some more damning footage. Here's Cheney.
Many have suggested that the problem can be dealt with simply by returning inspectors to Iraq. But we must remember that inspections are not an end in themselves. The objective has to be disarmament, to compel Iraqi compliance with the UN Security Council resolutions that called for the complete destruction of Saddam's weapons of mass destruction and an end to all efforts to develop or produce more chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons.
I may or may not pull it up here, but the only thing we got is a big old lie once again. We had the public hanging of Saddam, which was cheered on by mass hordes of conservatives who at the time thought it was a good idea to act like medieval peasants looking at a public hanging event or public decapitation event like it was fun for them, like it was the rodeo or something. A very barbaric episode in the American history. Let's keep going here. I wanted to just show you how in recent years, even 10 years ago, Al Jazeera had a huge piece. This is just a clip from Lies That Launched the War. CNN official interview, George W. Bush reflects on no WMDs in Iraq. Oh, how nice. He can just reflect on it and be like, oops, my bad. Can you imagine? I mean, you just caused the death of an estimated, this is from the Lancet, 654,000. Iraq Family Health Survey, 151,000. Opinion Research says 1 million. PLOS Medicine Study says 405,000. Documented deaths, we have 103 to 113,000 civilian deaths recorded. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. So another huge death toll for a lie. Is it justified? Is it justified? Is it justified? When is it going to stop? When are we going to have people accountable for this? Because The incessant, infinitely regressive loop of violence and blaming and finger pointing and psychotic aggression. It can't possibly be sustainable. Let's keep going here to our number 3. And this is one that's actually close to my heart, but that I'm not going to cover for too long because there's still a lot left to see on this topic. But if you recall, just in recent history, it was a huge thing if you were a ufologist, if you were into UFOs. So let me remind you of this gentleman right here. Former governor of Arizona, talking about the Phoenix Lights incident.
So, and that's how many.
Mike Symington is now a businessman. He was the Republican governor of Arizona for 6 years, elected when the first George Bush was president. Now, a decade after leaving his state house, he takes me to a Phoenix park and discloses something unlike anything uttered by any other high-level U.S. politician.
If you had been here 10 years ago and standing out here and looking up there at the lights and the view, you would have been astounded. You would have been amazed.
Governor Symington is referring to what is now known as the Phoenix Lights, an object videotaped by many and seen by thousands over several nights in the Arizona sky in 1997.
Major sighting here.
It was described by witnesses as larger than a football field and silent.
It was a giant V, all right? And the right side of the V went over us. The left side was like a couple blocks over it.
We just didn't know what to do. You know, it was just like, my God, how big is this thing?
The great state of Arizona, Fife Symington.
The former governor, a Vietnam Air Force veteran, had never publicly acknowledged seeing it until now.
And I suspect that unless the Defense Department proves us otherwise, that it was probably some form of an alien spacecraft.
So why didn't he say anything then? Partly, he says, because he didn't want people to panic.
I think as a public figure, you have to be very careful about what you say, because people can have pretty emotional reactions, and I said my goal wasn't to try to stir the pot.
And he went to humorous and controversial lengths not to stir the pot. He held a news conference after the Phoenix Lights to announce the mystery had been solved.
And now I'll ask Officer Stein and his colleagues to escort the accused into the room so that we may all look upon the guilty party. Don't get him too close to me, please.
In the alien costume, the governor's chief of staff.
Now, this just goes to show that you guys are entirely too serious.
Can you ever trust a man like that? You know, one moment he's completely ridiculing you, and the other moment he's admitting that not only did he see the whole thing, but he knew, he had intel that it was indeed something really bizarre and perhaps not of this world. So can you ever trust a two-faced politician? And there again, you have an example of how the lies continue. Just recently, we have this.
President Obama says that there is footage and records of objects in the skies, these unidentified aerial phenomenon, and he says we don't know exactly what they are. What do you think that it is?
I would ask him again. Thank you. Come on, boss, let's go.
I would ask him again. There's a bit of denial coming from this administration, but all over the news. CNN, Pentagon confirms UFO video is real, taken by Navy pilot. NASA now investigating Navy's UFO videos. Leaked video shows UFO flying around Navy ship near San Diego. USA Today, Fox News, CNN, BBC America. I mean, it goes New York Post. It goes on and on and on. And we even have an official report by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence in the United States. And honestly, I'm not even gonna get into it because this is a pathetic report. It says unclassified. I mean, unclassified. Yeah, right. This doesn't serve anything. This is worse than the Project Blue Book report, which we had like 6-7 decades prior to this. That report actually had a lot of investigative data. This one is only calling for more investigation and essentially admitting that, well, yeah, something's going on. Another lie. One moment they say it's blue. The next moment they say it's red. You're ridiculed. You're ridiculed for doing your own investigative work. And here we have a New York Times article. No longer in the shadows, Pentagon's UFO unit will make some findings public. Eric W. Davis, an astrophysicist who worked as a subcontractor and then a consultant for the Pentagon UFO program since 2007, said that in some cases, examination of the materials had so far failed to determine their source and led him to conclude we couldn't make it ourselves. Wow. Mr. Davis, who now works for Aerospace Corporation, a defense contractor, said he gave a classified briefing to a Defense Department agency as recently as March about retrievals from off-world vehicles not made on this Earth. We went from a guy with a costume used by governor of Arizona to ridicule people, thousands of people that saw a sighting, including himself, to New York Times saying that a guy has given briefings with the Pentagon about UFOs. Well, this brings us to our number 4. Number 4 is really hot, but not nearly as bad or implicative as number 5. So don't go anywhere. But to start it off, remember the lab leak theory virus from a certain part of the world, the heavily ridiculed story by former president? Well, see, right before us, we have a document from the NIH, and it is to Peter Daszak, and it's regarding some funded operations by the NIH that will be remitted in the amount of $369,000. Essentially, a funding document that says we're not going to give you money anymore. But check this out. That's April 2020. July 8th, we have a follow-up letter saying, okay, we're going to continue funding, but we're just going to watch you a little closer. But it gets better. We have documents in the emails confirming that they were funding it, as we had assumed from the first letter. And then later on, more emails from lawsuits and FOIAs that the Canadian government was getting research resources from these laboratories. Check out this really juicy email right here from Xiangguo. Hi, Dave. The CL4, this is referring to the CL4 Level 4 laboratory, of China from Wuhan has contacted me for a possibility to receive Nipah and Ebola viruses from us. If possible, what paperwork needs to be done besides the import permit from them and export permit from us? MTA? Please advise. Wow, so that's so nice that they can get Ebola viruses from those labs too. I wonder what else they can get. Huh? Maybe it's something new that they're cooking up for us. Now it's on the New York Post. Oh, how interesting. NIH admits U.S.-funded gain of function in Wuhan despite Fauci's denials. Like we have been saying for 20 months. And on MSN, NIH admits Fauci lied about funding Wuhan gain of function experiments. Wow. It just, it doesn't stop. And what did we get for this? 770,000 dead, according to the official statistics. So how much are we going to put up with? Is that enough? Is that enough for us to cut this aggressive, infinitely recursive loop of aggression, violence, killing, sacrifice for political gain? When are we going to act? When are we going to act? And I had other documents here, but we're just going to have to keep going, guys, because this video is getting long. Let's go ahead into number 5. And number 5 is to tie everything together. Because the only thing that could make things worse, so if you have a WMD, like the thing going around, that was funded and experimented and concocted in laboratories, but then you have a solution for the WMD that then is even worse in effect, or allows there to be really questionable new authoritative measures put on the people. Well, what would the propaganda for something like that look like? Chad just covered this on the Houston Ensemble podcast in his video, How You is Programming Viewers to Be Violent. So Netflix is actually creating a variety of shows that in small ways are hinting at the general zeitgeist or the general agenda that we're seeing unfold on the corporate and political level. And for reasons of copyright, I'm only going to play this really briefly.
Again, we apologize. The most important thing is that everyone is better now, right?
Look. Oh, wasn't he polite? And then look at that smug look. He was just trying to be nice. And he got bludgeoned. He got smashed over the head. Killed by this lady. And that guy was somebody that just didn't want to give the little thingy to his kid. An anti-science fella. So how does that make you feel? That a program being watched by millions of people, the #1 show on Netflix, is pushing for this kind of violence? Are you starting to get the picture of what might be going on here? Let's watch this rap video from Columbia University.
You got the vaccine, they got the vaccine, we got the vaccine. We can get back to normal, let me inform you, let's all get the vaccine. It's about community immunity. I'm talking unity for you and me. If Doc says it's good, then trust me, it's good. Now let's all get the vaccine. Alright, there is none higher. DMC, I will inspire. Time for us to trust and not debate. The vaccine, believe it's safe to take. 9 out of 10 people won't get sick. That's 90% effective and legit.
It's like he was using talking points that they had given him to make a rap. I mean, this guy would never have made these cheesy lines had he not been specifically paid to say these things. And that's just an assumption. But is the community really proud of this individual who's making this little tune, despite the fact that we have disturbing historical data that says that certain communities were experimented on, funded by large corporations and governments, and this was done deliberately against the population? But let's keep going, because there's just so much more. Check this out.
Who to people who like the black audience, for instance, the African American community, who has been burnt in the past by the Tuskegee experiment and by things coming out that have harmed them. I don't blame that community for being skittish about it, but I say that so many white people have gotten it now. Mm-hmm. You know, the experiment has been done on white people now.
Although the black community, I have read.
So, because it's being done by everyone, or rather to everyone, then that's okay. Yeah, it's fine now, because see, we're all going to be guinea pigs. So great, we can all be in the fun little pool together and play. A nice group sacrificial activity for us all. What do you think about that, guys? How does that sound like to you? I mean, where do these people get this stuff? It gets worse when you think about the protocol at the community level of handling this disease. I just pulled up the Houston Methodist Protocol, and in their document, I'm not going to be able to read you the names of these drugs, but just look at the highlighted part I'm going to give you right here. So check this out. HM actively discourages the combination of blah and blah as treatment. Okay, except for these drugs are some of the most documented drugs being used. And you don't have to believe in me. You can go directly to the NIH website and look at dozens upon dozens of studies on all of these. But see, instead it recommends for the use of this drug right here. So, but what's the problem with that? Well, we have on peer-reviewed website a wealth of information that shows that these drugs are extremely ineffective. They have marginal benefit over placebos, and they have a host of complications. So, to finish it, on the NIH website itself, if we go down to the drug study endpoints, check this out. There was no difference in the time to clinical improvement between the drug and placebo groups. Though not statistically significant, for patients who started the drug within 10 days of symptom onset, faster time to clinical improvement was seen in the drug arm than in the placebo arm. Okay. That's very nice that it's not statistically significant. Makes me feel much better about the complications that are possible. Furthermore, there's no difference between the group in viral load at baseline, and the rate of decline over time was similar between two groups. So it goes on and on and on. The increasingly aggressive push by the media of this agenda is dwarfing the previous 4 on this list. And it just goes to show you the level to which these individuals will go at the corporate and media level to perpetuate particular lies. But in this instance, it's getting to an extreme point. So I ask you once again, at what point is it enough? When are we going to end the constant repeated cycle of blaming, victimization of psychotic agendas that are risking people's lives? I mean, we have to stop this insane cycle at some point. The history of these companies doing tests on us and on other living creatures on this planet, we must take a stand at some point. And so with that, guys, I'm going to sign off. This is Arma from Houston Ensemble. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think of this video, what you think of our other content, and whether you have certain items that you think I should have added to this list. And I'll catch you on the next video.
It is widely known that the tobacco and diet industries lobby governments with scientific propaganda for years until proven guilty in court. The artificial treatment of our water is the next corporate deception.
For example, virtually every nation in Europe has rejected the use of artificial fluoride. International studies since the 40s have repeatedly shown that endocrine and neurological effects increase after repeated consumption, even at the levels accepted by U.S. government.
Epic Water Filters is the most thorough industry-grade filtration system that Houston Ensemble has ever used. They reduce heavy metals upwards of 99.5%, such as lead and mercury, bacteria like E. coli, and poisons like chromium, nitrate, and fluoride.
Join us in our journey to living a toxin-free life and get your Epic Water Filter using discount code Houston Ensemble, lowercase, one word. That's Houston Ensemble, lowercase, one word, for 20% off your Epic Water Filter.